Is it true that $0 are included in the supplemental that just passed for ICE detention for single or family units?
That's correct.
Right, and isn't that part of the problem?
It is.
Right, and wasn't it purposeful by my Democrat colleagues?
I assume that they did not want to fund ICE beds, but what I'm trying to emphasize is the impact it has on adults waiting at the border.
But it's not just a humanitarian crisis, is it? We have a crisis of national security, overstretched resources, endangerment of American citizens, endangerment of Texas communities, and endangerment of migrants along the journey at the hands of cartels, is it not?
It's also a border security crisis.
The truth is that dangerous cartels, particularly the Gulf cartels, Reynosa faction, the CDN of Los Zetas, and the Sinaloas, are massively profiting by moving people through Mexico to the United States, correct?
Yes, $3 billion plus a year.
The poster behind me is a poster that shows prices for moving people through Mexico and to the United States. And so do you agree that it is true that certain dangerous cartels have an entire business model designed to exploit American laws for profit, to move human beings for profit, and that they charge money per person as depicted in this chart?
Yes, I met a family from Honduras yesterday that explained they paid $10,000 to come across.
Do you agree that they use children as a ticket for profit to come to the United States?
Yes.
Now let's look at the numbers quickly. How many people have come across the border and sought to be detained themselves, sought detention, or were apprehended? That number from October 1st to present is north of 700,000, correct?
It's north of 500,000. The single adults are not, by and large, turning themselves in.
Okay.
They're trying to evade capture, and embedded in that group, unfortunately, are gang members, criminals, and hardened smugglers. And
then if you include those that have been apprehended that didn't seek to be turned over, it's well over 700,000, correct?
Oh, combined, we're over 800,000.
And so then there are those hundreds of thousands of people who crossed our border in that time who were not apprehended, correct?
There are, yes.
And is it not true that Border Patrol is overwhelmed? Is it not true that Border Patrol is dealing with housing migrants rather than policing the border?
When you have 40% of your agents doing housing, transportation, and care, the border is less secure.
Of those 800,000 that you just said, how many were UACs? Around 80,000?
Yes.
How many are single adults? 250,000 or so?
Correct.
And of those, are they mostly male?
The single adults are predominantly male, yes.
How many were family units? Over 400,000?
450,000.
Of those, roughly 200,000 each of adults and children, about 50-50?
We're seeing about 1.1 because people know that a child is a very valuable way to get into the U.S., so they're only bringing one child with them at a time now.
Are most of those family units now dispersed throughout the United States?
Yes.
For the most part, are these family units claiming asylum, or are they largely using a child as a ticket for catch and release?
The latter. We do see a number of asylum claims, but it's actually gone down this year from the peak of about 30% of those encounters claiming asylum.
Is it true that the issue of UACs could be largely solved with a fix to TVPRA and that this could be done on a single piece of paper?
Yes.
Is it true that we could largely solve the problem of family units rushing our border and then being caught and released by addressing the Flores settlement, an extension of that settlement by a Ninth Circuit judge on essentially a single piece of paper?
Yes, that was our experience in 2014 and 2015.
Is it true that with respect to the family unit problem, representing the majority of the surge across our border, that the Obama administration supported a solution to the Flores problem and that, again, we could solve it on a single piece of paper?
Yes.
Is it true that the Obama administration asked for $762 million for ICE to deal with the unaccompanied alien children problem in 2014, the surge where children were riding on the top of train cars?
Yeah, we all asked for additional appropriations at DHS to deal with the unaccompanied child surge, yes.
And does that amount seem correct, the $762 million?
That sounds like it's in the ballpark.
That is what I'm told. Is it true that the supplemental just passed only provided $200 million for ICE in response to a much larger crisis today, and that it came with significant restrictions on how it can be used?
That's correct.
To repeat again, $0, purposely $0 for ICE beds and ICE detention. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you anticipate that the Democrat-led House of Representatives will bring any of these solutions that could be done on one piece of paper to the floor for a vote this week?
Probably not this week, but I'm sure hopeful on a shared set of facts we can talk about real solutions.
So for Flores, TVPRA, or money for ICE, the things that we know would solve the problem and largely address the crisis, you are not anticipating that that will be brought to the floor of the House of Representatives this next week before we adjourn for the August recess?
I don't see any legislative action that would make that possible at this time.
Which begs the question why? Which begs the question why? And I'll tell you why. It is because my Democrat colleagues don't give a damn about our national security or the migrants coming here, and they prefer to use children as political props. Thank you. No more questions.